This particular pharmacist decided to fill the medication. And when I went into the pharmacy, they had already called the police, but he handed me all the medicine, and I was walking to the door, and the police arrested me on my way out the door. And then the jail cell door slammed shut, and you think, how did this happen? My goal in life growing up was to go into medicine. The only thing I ever wanted to do was to become a physician. That goal ended up taking a back seat to drug abuse, to prescription drug abuse. This was at 13. I had appendicitis, and I was given Demerol in the hospital, and I kind of knew once I got that first injection of Demerol that I liked what the drug did for me. In the very beginning, it was made pretty easy because I was using a prescription pad that belonged to my late uncle. I was 14 years old, having a lot of insomnia, couldn't sleep, and I decided that I was going to try and write myself a prescription for Valium. Right at the beginning of the service, I left the temple with prescription in hand, and I walked about 1.5 miles to the local pharmacy in my suit, and I still had my yarmulke on my head, and walked right in the pharmacy with my Valium prescription and handed it to the pharmacist. And of course I made it out in someone else's name, but they filled it. It did a lot of damage. It bolstered my ego in such a way that I saw that I was able to do this and get away with it. Eventually what I started doing was I would get a temporary driver's license from the DMV, and I would alter the name, date of birth, address, driver's license number, and I would reprint it. I would use those to fill in places that required identification to be shown. I have lots of visible scars. I would use those to my advantage a lot of times. Sometimes I would use props like crutches and things like that. I mean, every state has slightly different laws regarding prescriptions for controlled substances. In this state, the laws are pretty lax. The policies, rather, vary from pharmacy to pharmacy. Certain pharmacies will require you to show identification for any controlled substance. Certain pharmacies will require identification for Schedule II drugs like Percocet or Oxycodone or morphine or Adderall. Certain Rhode Island pharmacies, the majority, will not require identification for any of them. I started getting very involved in 12-step recovery programs. Really what's kind of taught me how to live a different way.
Well, my relationship with Jonathan actually began with me requesting representatives from the Blessing Way, which is a drug treatment program, to come in and speak to our community about substances. But that actually expanded to him becoming a regular volunteer at our local teen center. And at our local teen center, it's for some kids who are a little rough around the edges. And Jonathan became one of our most stalwart volunteers. The kids really looked up to him. And he was somebody that I think that actually did some really good work. I think it was good for him, and I think it was a real important and a good thing for the kids that he interacted with.
Recovery is possible within everyone, but somebody won't recover until they're able to get honest, until they're willing to do whatever they need to do, and until they're open-minded enough to accept the suggestions that are given to them. So long as someone is still willing, there's hope.